Welcome to the City Movement Podcast. At the City Movement, we are passionate about planting churches and YMCAs and uplifting the Christian mission of the YMCA. In each episode, we will talk deeply about the mission of the YMCA and provide encouragement to pastors and members of churches and YMCAs. We're your hosts, Jeff Snyder and Mike Newman. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Let's jump into today's episode. Hey, welcome into Season 2, Episode 3. Here we are at the City Movement Podcast. I'm here with Mike Newman. This is Jeff Snyder, and we are excited today. We're going to give some updates on what's happening in the City Movement, what's happening in our churches, and just what it looks like to be in a church in a YMCA in this season and around Easter. Right?
Amen.
How you doing, Mike Newman?
I'm doing okay. I mean, your intro, it was awesome.
Yeah.
But there was some pressure in there. You said we're going to talk deeply about it.
Very deeply.
About church in the Y.
At least 6 feet deep.
Okay. What do you mean by deeply?
I just mean like that we're going to go in depth.
In depth.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I think the listeners need to hear what it's like to be a church in the Y around this season.
Yeah.
And what are we doing? Is it just so that other churches around the country would just like blueprint our calendars into theirs?
I think so.
No, come on. What would it be like?
I mean, I think it's, I am encouraged when I hear what other churches are doing.
Yeah.
Both from the standpoint of idea generation.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, I mean, it's not all about programs and what you're planning to reach out to the YMCA or how you're partnering with the YMCA. But that's a part of what we do. So
yeah.
I get encouraged by that. And I just get encouraged when I hear stories about how other churches are doing this well.
Okay.
How the people that go to those churches or their members are living the vision and what that looks like for each church. Does that make sense?
Fair enough, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a
First,
theological question.
Let me give you an update.
Oh, come on. Okay. All right.
Give
him an update, and then I'm excited to talk deeply.
My 6-year-old basketball team is on a 2-game winning streak.
That's pretty cool.
I know.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, so we...
2 games?
No, you don't understand. Our first game, I think if they were keeping score, we would have lost something like, 80-6.
Okay.
I mean, it was very obvious that no one on my team had played basketball before,
okay.
and everyone on the other team had played. And we have just grown. We have grown by leaps and bounds.
Fine. Update on my end.
Okay.
I signed up my kids for hip-hop at the Y.
And you?
I did not. The ages are 8 to 15.
Yeah, you're a little above that.
A little older.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I am looking forward to a demonstration.
You'll get it. All right, question. Here we go.
Let's go for it.
Before we talk about outreach to the Y, I think it'd be worth our time to define what we mean by outreach. Like what, when we say evangelism, what are we talking about? What are we not talking about? How about we start with what are we not talking about?
When we're talking about evangelism?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think many people approach evangelism from different angles.
Yeah.
So I think you could probably say there's ways to do evangelism that work well in a YMCA and ways that might not work as well. I would not say, in my mind, that a way to go about evangelism in a YMCA well is to go in with guns blazing and you're just saying everything that the YMCA is doing wrong and trying to correct them. But when I think about evangelism at the YMCA, I think about personal relationships and really spending time to get to know the different members and staff people at the YMCA so that you can bring the hope and light of Jesus into those conversations.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the YMCA is people.
Yeah.
Not this like just structure.
For sure.
Not this organization only, but it's people. Person across the table, gym instructor, swim instructor, things like that. Yep. And we're churches in Ys. So how do you think that through with personal evangelism and also corporate efforts? Because I would say evangelism, what we're not talking about is probably in the last, 10, 15 years, churches adopting this idea of, we are missional, look at our calendar, I've been to every event that our church does. Although I haven't talked about Jesus with anyone, I've been to the outreaches, and I feel good about missions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're not talking about that.
Correct.
Yeah, good. I'm all about talking about what we are talking about. Then, what are we talking about?
Well, I mean, I think mostly what we're talking about is, because I would say, like, there is a place for those programs.
Yep.
Because we're going to talk about some of those programs.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, those programs are just a vehicle to establish relational connections between the YMCA and the people of our churches so that we can bring the gospel into those conversations.
That's right.
Very relationally. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the, even just like small things, but like in a season like Easter, what are some of the outreach kind of things we do to try and connect people of our church to people of the YMCA,
mm-hmm.
and provide a safe spiritual place for YMCA members.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to talk about, I mean, you were sharing a story with me right before we started about a member of your church and how that member came to you and said what they were doing to reach out. And so I am so sorry. This is hilarious. This is like a church and a YMCA moment. So we're meeting in a podcast room, right? And I asked the maintenance guy to turn off the blower, and he came back over here and turned the blower back on because I think we've reached our limit, and he wanted to turn it back on. He just knocked on the door and gave me a thumbs up, like in the middle of when we're recording. And I tried to play it off like it didn't happen, but it happened. And I just wanted to say it happened.
I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
So I don't even remember what I was saying, but like what the story you were sharing about how there's a member of your church who's really living into the vision of figuring out how to relationally reach out to the YMCA. I think it's a balance of both.
Yeah. So for our church, I mean, both of our churches, we have this burden to bring the gospel to the lost. We know from Romans 10, like faith comes through hearing, and hearing by the word of Christ. And so like people don't come to Christ by a program. People don't come to Christ even by just like feeding them, like feeding the poor or doing nice things or painting walls. But it really takes, like, God advances his gospel and he uses his people to do it by them opening their mouths and sharing with them the truth in love and with their, serving with their hands and things like that. But like our prayer is that our people would be burdened with the gospel, that they would love the Lord, and that their love would jump its banks to the lost.
Yeah.
And so it's been exciting to see in our church people growing deeper in the word, and then as a result, having a heart for others.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned this.
Share that story.
Yeah. So I just got done eating lunch with a guy, and he has his kids. Him and his wife have his kids in the Y that our church is meeting at, and together when they're dropping off their kids and picking them up, they're meeting the teachers, they're meeting their parents.
Just to clarify, so for people that might not know, there's a childcare that meets at your Y. So when you say he has his kids in the Y, you mean that his kids go to the YMCA childcare. They pay for their kids to be in the childcare at the Y.
You got it.
And they've chosen to do that because your church is meeting in the Y and they're trying to live out that vision.
Yep. Great.
Okay, so go ahead. So they're dropping off their kids.
Yeah, and one of their teachers, she's married to a guy who just got deployed, and he's been overseas and she's struggling, and it's tough, and she's raising her family, and it is like, it's more than just celebrating like Veterans Day. For our country now, like we've got a few soldiers in our congregation, and we've got a few wives married to soldiers, and now we've got a Y teacher where she's hurting, she's lonely, and she could use some encouragement. And this guy goes, I think we should really put together a package for her. Let's write some notes to her.
That's awesome.
We're going to reach out and we're going to invite her for dinner. And to me, as a pastor, that brings me so much joy, knowing that he's doing that. There's no line item budget for that from a church perspective. There's no one like pushing that from the like. He is burdened by the Holy Spirit to be salt and light and show the love of Christ to her.
Yeah.
No one's watching him. It was just really exciting.
It's a great moment
to see that. Yeah, and that was just today. That's one of the privileges of being a pastor. We get like a front row seat to ministry happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm encouraged and would pray that their efforts to just reach out in love to that teacher and the childcare are just fruitful.
All right, tell me what you guys are doing corporately to reach out to the Y where God has placed you guys.
Yeah, well, we I always think the seasons around holidays are really great moments to step in. I mean, we're always in the YMCA, but to provide more spaces in the YMCA for people to just hear about the hope of the gospel.
Yeah.
And so specifically with Easter coming up, I mean, we're still in February now, but pretty soon it's going to be March, and then Easter's halfway through April this year. So we're starting to think about some of the things we're going to do to make some of those spaces and opportunities available at our YMCA. And we have this great relationship where our Y wants us to, make these spaces open. And so just to share a few things that we do, many churches have programs like this. Every Easter on Good Friday, we put on what we call Journey to the Cross. And it's like a Stations of the Cross thing. Like it's something that a lot of people listening maybe have heard or participated in something like this, where you kind of go through 12 stations, and it tracks, kind of like the last week of Jesus' life through his resurrection, ending in the Great Commission. And we just make this available to all the members of the YMCA. It runs all day on Good Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we have our chaplains there the whole time. We have volunteer chaplains at our Y, and they're greeting people and offering prayer. And it's always really encouraging because we have it in the YMCA where it's open and anyone can come, and there's announcements every hour about it. And we always just have hundreds and hundreds of people, many times people that I don't even know, people that don't go to our church, come through this. And it's a really great opportunity to step into a cultural moment where people are open and invite them in. Yep. And so it's something I've loved doing every year that I've been on staff at our church. And I would even say, like, one of the things I love about networking with other YMCA churches is just like sharing ideas. Like even when we had Graham Jones, his church, on last season, one of the things he shared was how their church community groups adopt different departments at the YMCA.
Yeah, I love that.
And we're starting to do that now at our church. And so I would even, if anyone listening has any questions, or I think we'll even try and link the PDF of the script that we follow for Journey to the Cross in the show notes. If anyone is interested in what we do there, we'd be so happy to share the things we do, because it's really a very not intimidating way to invite people that don't know Jesus in like a sensitive time. Just invite them in and help them experience the life and the last week and death and resurrection of Jesus.
That's good. Around
this Easter time. So we do that. I get really excited about that. In the past, we've done things like a Good Friday breakfast where we pay for, like a breakfast buffet and invite leaders from the community and have a speaker kind of first thing in the morning on Good Friday. Have an opportunity where we present the gospel on Good Friday. And then, every Christmas and Easter, we make our services more about being at the YMCA than about our church. So, like at Christmas Eve, it's we don't call them Antioch Christmas Eve services. All of our flyers just say Christmas Eve at the YMCA. And same with Easter. We just say Easter at the YMCA. And we try and just as much as possible almost treat all of the Y as our church congregation for that holiday. So it's just a very open place where any member of the Y can come. Because even regardless of how we feel about it, statistics would tell us that many, many more people come in the doors of our churches on Christmas and Easter than any other Sunday of the year. And being in a YMCA, we embrace that and say we want as many of them to come as possible. Yeah. So those are a few of the things that we do. I mean, we do other things like partner with the childcare in our Y and do an Easter egg hunt every year, and just like serve the Y by being with them. Is there anything you're doing or anything you guys have done in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've said it on the podcast before, but like in general, one of the benefits of being a church in the Y is that you want to look at the Y calendar first before you look at the church calendar and see if you can go not just what can we do to get people there, but is the community already doing? What's the Y already doing, and how can we join in there?
Yeah, that's great.
And so there's been a few things like this year, like, well, I'll tell you, I'll back up a step. So we're a church 3.5 years old now, and we're learning. We're learning how to be a church in the Y. So if anyone's listening, may that be an encouragement to you that you can learn, right?
Yeah, we've been in the Y for 20 years, and I think we are still learning.
We're still learning
every week.
Yes,
absolutely.
So we tried to do some classes in the past, some parenting classes, some financial peace classes, and we just didn't have great attendance. This year we're going like totally relational fun mode. Like, what are easy on-ramps to relationships between the Y and the church? And so, like, we've met with the leadership there. It's like, hey, what's going on, and how can we support it? So, like, I know that the Y does Kids Night Out, where parents drop off their kids and get a date night. So this spring we're going to do a date night and team it with our youth group and our kids worship night. And so it's just kind of a natural, like, of course, we'd love to.
That's a great idea.
In the fall, we're going to do a hoedown.
Oh.
I know. Come on. You're welcome to come.
Are you going to show off some of your
Absolutely
newly learned hip-hop moves at the hoedown?
No, I'm not going to.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
But I do
Maybe
have
I
boots.
misunderstood.
I do have boots, yeah. So, like, that's something that they have done fall festival things for years, and we're going to help them this year, and it'll be great. And all the church will come out, and families will come out, and it'll be a great place to, like, have an atmosphere of fun relationship building. There are a lot of people in the Y. Our Y has 120 families, and this is COVID, post-COVID. They're looking for churches. Some have moved to the area, and they're still figuring it out. And so even this past weekend, we had a Valentine's Day dance, and we met a bunch of families from the Y going, it's great we'll come to church. We'll come check it out. We haven't been back yet. So thanks for reaching out.
Yeah.
So yeah, just trying to create some easy on-ramps to relationships. That's a few things.
That's awesome. I mean, I agree that just the things we're doing, there are some things that we do to just try and create spaces for people to meet the Lord. And I would say Journey to the Cross is kind of one of those for us. But more than anything, in a lot of the other events that we do that we're partnering or coming alongside the Y in, to view them as on-ramps to relationships is a great objective and goal for those things. So it's just one of the things I love about having church in a YMCA is that we can encourage our members and attenders at our church to participate in evangelism where we have church. Yeah. That's like a great thing.
That's wonderful.
To just say, hey, come practice being missional at the place where we also have church.
That's right.
It doesn't have to be like go and do and then come back, but it's all right here.
Yeah, so. That's right. That's good.
Is there anything else you'd say about evangelism coming alongside the Y, being missional in this season specifically?
In this season.
Yeah, like the kind of like ending winter, beginning spring.
I would say anything that your church decides to do with regards to outreach. Philippians 1 has been a great passage for my heart lately, where it says, it's the famous, like, for me to live as Christ, to die as gain. John Piper calls that the win-win passage, where it's you win if you die because you're with Christ. And if you live, and if you're living for Christ, that's a win. And he defines that, a little just biblical tracing of thought here. He defines that as fruitful labor. And he says, but what shall I choose? I don't know, for I desire to depart and be with Christ, which is better by far. But I know that I will remain and will take part, or continue, some versions say, continue in your joy and progress in the faith. So I think there, it's just been good for my heart to remind me that living for Christ in the context of, like, outreach to the YMCA isn't just showing up to a place, although showing up is good.
Yeah.
But it's the willingness to take part in someone else's joy and progress in the faith. And that takes guts. and winsomeness
Yeah.
to ask someone that you might just be getting to know, how are they doing spiritually?
Mm-hmm.
How can you encourage or help them in any way to grow in their faith?
Yeah.
Those are conversations that are not always just on the tip of everyone's tongue. Last Sunday we learned about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
I know them.
Man, those guys were brave.
Mm-hmm.
Loved the Lord, willing to die. And so sometimes I even me, I'm like, am I afraid of a fellow church member? Or am I afraid of this teacher? I shouldn't be afraid. The Lord's called me to live a brave, bold life for the gospel. I think I can ask him, hey, how you doing spiritually?
Yeah.
Is there anything I can pray for?
Yeah, I think you said it
Yeah.
earlier, just being willing
Yeah.
to kind of ask those questions and offer, I think is huge.
Yeah.
So, amen.
Yeah.
I agree. Hey, I think we would be, just like quick subject change.
Yeah.
We would miss out on an opportunity to not just update anyone watching or listening on some of the awesome things happening in the city movement so far in
Let's do it.
2022.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I know we probably talked about this at the beginning of this season. Obviously, we probably talked about it last season. But we released a documentary called The Reason Why, and it has over 500,000 views on YouTube. So if you haven't seen that, if you're a listener or viewer of this podcast, or even watching this right now and have never seen it, I would encourage you to go watch it. It's linked on our YouTube page, The City Movement on YouTube, and it's just a well-done, inspiring documentary about the history of the YMCA, the Christian history specifically. So that's been really awesome. You can jump in here at any point, Mike, if there's anything you want to say. We have had multiple conversations already this year about planting churches in YMCAs. We've had 2 different YMCAs reach out to us and ask, we want a church in our YMCA. Can you help us? We've had conversations with new pastors that have churches in YMCAs that we didn't even know about, who are just living out the vision, doing the church in the YMCA thing so well. And so I would say, as one of the leaders of this movement, that my heart's just encouraged. And the more we talk about it, the more practical steps we take, the more I'm encouraged that I really think God is breathing life into this movement. And I'm really excited to see what's going to happen over the next couple of years.
It's excellent. Yep. And it's February, so if you made some sort of goal to read books this year, and if you're trailing off, and maybe the one that you started in January, February isn't so hot, isn't so awesome, you could start a new book called, come on, The Shining Light.
The Shining. I didn't know where you were going with that. I was like, you're just going to give me a book?
No. Book reference, book recommendation.
It's a great
The Shining
book.
Light. So if you're interested in learning at a deeper level the mission of the YMCA and the original vision, that would be a great one to start with. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of New Year's resolutions, one of mine is to do 50 push-ups a day.
Excellent.
You can tell, right?
I can totally tell. You must be a solid 140. 5.
Please,
4.
some respect. Oh my goodness. If you're really interested in how much I weigh, you can go back and listen to the last episode of season 1, right?
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else you would say as we sign off here?
Nope, just grateful to be here. Yep.
Yeah, we got some we're upping our technology game and figuring out how to remote in some people on our podcast. So be looking for that, all you watchers, all you viewers and listeners and downloaders, that we're going to have we're really excited to have some people not in our immediate vicinity just share some wisdom and come with us on the podcast here over these next couple months. I think it'll be great. So if you... we would love for you to connect with us more. You can go to our website, thecitymovement.com, or email us at uscitymovement@gmail.com. If you're listening to this, make sure you subscribe. If you're viewing this, you can subscribe on YouTube. And we just love to be in contact with you. So that's all for today. For Mike Newman, this is Jeff Snyder, and that was the City Movement Podcast.